The young tutor walked out of the office, her face wet with tears. She was the 12th one this year. Inside, 2 8-year-old girls stood still as statues. No crying, no apologies. Just empty eyes staring down at the cold marble floor. Billionaire Victoria Sterling slammed her hand on the desk. "No one can handle you." 1 week later, she walked into her daughter's room and froze. Lily and Emma, the 2 children no expert could manage, sat doing homework. Silent. Focused. And beside them sat a man in a faded blue uniform she had never truly noticed before. What happened in that room? 5:30 in the morning. The apartment was small, the kind where you could hear your neighbor's television through the wall. In the kitchen, a man stood at the counter, arranging food inside a plastic lunchbox. His name was Marcus Reed. 42 years old. His hands moved with the careful attention of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. The lunchbox had a dinosaur on the lid. He had drawn it himself with a permanent marker 3 years ago, back when his son still smiled at small things. Inside, he placed a sandwich cut into 4 neat squares, an apple sliced thin, crackers arranged in a row. He stepped back and looked at his work. The food formed the shape of a face, 2 crackers for eyes, apple slices for a smile. His son walked into the kitchen, 10 years old, small for his age. The boy did not say good morning. He rarely spoke at all. Autism, the doctors had said. High functioning, they added, as if that made it easier. Marcus handed him the lunchbox. The boy took it without looking up. They ate breakfast in silence, not the uncomfortable kind. Just the quiet of 2 people who understood each other without needing words. On the kitchen table sat a photograph in a cheap frame, a woman with dark hair and kind eyes. She had made lunches like this once. She had drawn the dinosaur first, and Marcus had simply copied her lines after she was gone. 3 years now. A car accident on a rainy Tuesday. She had been driving home from the grocery store. Marcus did not look at the photograph anymore. He kept it there because his son sometimes touched the frame before bed, running his small fingers along the edge, as if checking to make sure it was still real. 6 in the morning. Marcus arrived at Sterling Tower, 47 floors of glass and steel in the center of the city. He wore a blue uniform with his name stitched above the pocket. He carried a mop and a bucket, and a ring of keys that opened storage closets on every floor. He was always the first to arrive. He liked it that way. The building was quiet before the others came. No voices, no footsteps, just the hum of the air conditioning and the soft squeak of his mop against tile. He started on the ground floor and worked his way up. Each step of the staircase, each corner of the lobby. He cleaned the way some people pray, with focus and repetition, and the hope that the work itself might quiet the noise inside his head. By 7, the building began to fill. Executives in expensive suits, assistants carrying coffee, security guards nodding as they passed. Most did not notice him. A few offered polite smiles. None of them knew his name. That was fine. He preferred it. 8:15. Marcus was on the 15th floor when he heard the shouting. Victoria Sterling's office sat at the end of the hall. The door was heavy wood with frosted glass. Through it, he could see shadows moving, hear voices rising. He kept mopping. It was not his business. The door flew open. A young woman stumbled out, her face red and streaked with tears. She was in her 20s, dressed in clothes that looked too formal, too new. Her hands shook as she fumbled with her bag. She did not look at Marcus as she hurried past. She was crying too hard to notice anyone. He watched her disappear into the elevator. Then he looked back at the office door. It was still open. Through the gap, he could see 2 small figures standing near the window. 2 girls, identical twins. 8 years old, maybe. They wore matching school uniforms, white shirts and plaid skirts. Their hair was pulled back into tight ponytails. They stood perfectly still. No movement. No sound. Their faces were blank, like masks carved from stone. Victoria Sterling stood in front of them. She was tall, sharp-featured, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. Her voice cut through the air like a blade. "Do you understand what you have done?" she said to the girls. "That was the 12th tutor this year. 12. Do you know how that makes me look?" The girls did not answer. "You are 8 years old," Victoria continued. Her voice was rising now, losing control. 8. And you cannot behave for 1 hour. 1 single hour. What is wrong with you?" Still nothing. The girls stared at the floor. Victoria turned away from them, pressing her fingers against her temples. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, but somehow worse. Colder. "Your father would be ashamed," she said. One of the girls flinched. Just barely. A small twitch in her shoulder. Victoria did not notice. She was already walking toward her desk, picking up her phone, dialing someone with sharp, angry jabs of her finger. Marcus turned away. He dipped his mop back into the bucket and moved down the hall. He told himself it was not his business, that he had his own problems, that he could not fix everyone. But the image stayed with him. Those 2 girls standing like statues. The way one of them had flinched at the mention of her father. He knew that look. He had seen it in his own son's eyes. Noon. Marcus ate his lunch on a bench outside the building. A sandwich, an apple. The same thing every day. His phone buzzed. A text from his son's school. "Everything okay today?" No incidents. He typed back a thumbs-up emoji and put the phone away. When he went back inside, he took the service elevator to the 15th floor. He was scheduled to clean the storage rooms that afternoon. The building had dozens of them. Small, windowless spaces filled with supplies, paper towels, cleaning chemicals, boxes of files no one ever looked at. He unlocked the door to storage room 15C and stepped inside. The light flickered on. Shelves lined the walls, a mop sink in the corner. The air smelled like dust and bleach. And then he heard it. Crying. Soft. Muffled. Coming from behind a stack of cardboard boxes. Marcus set down his bucket. He walked slowly around the shelves, careful not to make too much noise. One of the girls sat on the floor in the corner, the one who had flinched earlier. She was hugging a stuffed bear. Old, worn, the kind of toy that had been loved too much. Her face was buried in its fur. She was crying, but trying hard not to make any sound. Her shoulders shook. Her breath came in short, broken gasps. Marcus stood there for a moment, unsure. He thought about leaving, about pretending he had not seen her. But he could not. He took 2 steps forward and lowered himself to the floor. Not close, just near enough that she would know someone was there. The girl looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen. She stared at him with the wary suspicion of a wounded animal. Marcus did not speak. He just sat, waiting. After a long while, the girl wiped her face with the back of her hand. "I'm not supposed to be here," she said. Her voice was small and hoarse. Marcus nodded. "It's okay." She looked down at the bear in her arms, her fingers twisted in its fur. "I'm not bad," she whispered. "I'm not. I miss my dad." Something inside Marcus cracked. A fault line he had been holding together for 3 years. He knew exactly what she meant. "I know," he said quietly. The girl looked at him again. This time, the suspicion in her eyes softened just a little. "Do you?" she asked. Marcus thought about his wife, about the mornings when he still reached for her side of the bed before remembering she was gone, about the lunch boxes he made every day because it was the only thing he knew how to do. "Yeah," he said. "I do." They sat in silence, not the empty kind, the kind that felt like understanding. After a while, the girl spoke again. "My sister is probably looking for me." "Probably," Marcus agreed. "I should go back." You can if you want. Or you can stay a little longer. She thought about it. Then she leaned back against the wall and closed her eyes, still holding the bear. Marcus stayed where he was. He did not say anything. He did not tell her everything would be okay. He did not make promises he could not keep. He just sat. 10 minutes passed, maybe 15. Then the door opened. The other twin stood in the doorway. She looked at Marcus with sharp, suspicious eyes. Then she looked at her sister. "Emma," the second girl said. "Mom is looking for you." Emma, the girl with the bear, opened her eyes. She looked at her sister, then at Marcus. "This is the janitor," Emma said. "He's nice." The other girl did not respond. She just kept staring at Marcus like she was trying to figure out whether he was dangerous. Marcus stood up slowly. He brushed the dust off his uniform. "You should probably get back," he said to Emma. Emma nodded. She got to her feet, still clutching the bear. "Can I come back here?" she asked. "If I need to?" Marcus looked at her, then at her sister, then back at Emma. "Yeah," he said, "if you need to." Emma walked toward the door. Her sister stepped aside to let her pass, but before they left, the second girl turned back to Marcus. "I'm Lily," she said. Her voice was harder than Emma's, more guarded. "Marcus," he replied. Lily nodded once. Then she followed her sister out into the hall. Marcus stood alone in the storage room. The light flickered above him. He looked down at the spot where Emma had been sitting. There, on the floor, was a small wet stain where her tears had fallen. He picked up his mop, dipped it in the bucket, started to clean. But something had shifted. He could feel it. Like a door had been opened, just a crack, and now he could not close it again. He did not know yet what it would cost him, but he would find out soon enough. The next morning, Marcus was called to the security office. He had been mopping the third-floor lobby when his supervisor found him. A man named Bill, late 50s, with a belly that hung over his belt and a face that always looked tired. "Need you upstairs," Bill said. "Security wants a word." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He set the mop against the wall and followed Bill to the elevator. The security office was a small room on the 20th floor. 4 monitors on the wall, showing camera feeds from around the building. A desk cluttered with papers and empty coffee cups. 2 men waited inside. One was the head of security, a former cop named Ron Vasquez. The other was someone Marcus did not recognize. Younger, wearing a suit that looked expensive. Ron gestured to a chair. Marcus sat. "We need to ask you about yesterday," Ron said. His voice was neutral, but his eyes were hard. "You were seen on the 15th floor, in one of the storage rooms, with Victoria Sterling's daughters." Marcus nodded slowly. "I found one of them crying. I stayed until she felt better." "Why were you in that room?" the man in the suit asked. "I clean the storage rooms," Marcus said. "It's part of my rote." "And you thought it was appropriate to be alone with a child you don't know?" She was upset. "I didn't want to leave her by herself." The man in the suit leaned back in his chair. He looked at Ron, then back at Marcus. "Do you understand how this looks?" he asked. Marcus understood perfectly. He had been through this before. 3 years ago, when his wife died, there had been questions. Police at his door. Investigators asking why he had been driving that night, why he had let her take the car, whether he had any reason to want her gone. They had cleared him eventually, ruled it an accident. But the questions had left scars. "I was trying to help," Marcus said quietly. "That's not your job," the man in the suit replied. Ron shifted in his seat. He seemed uncomfortable. When he spoke, his voice was softer than before. "Look, Marcus, no one is saying you did anything wrong. But Mrs. Sterling runs a tight ship. She doesn't like people overstepping. You understand?" Marcus understood. He was being told to stay in his lane, to mop floors and empty trash cans and not think about anything beyond that. He stood up. Are we done? Ron nodded. Yeah, just be careful, okay? Marcus left the office. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger, from the helplessness of knowing that caring about someone could be turned into something ugly. That afternoon, he was summoned again. This time to Victoria Sterling's office. He took the elevator to the 15th floor, walked down the hallway he had cleaned 100 times, knocked on the heavy wooden door. Come in, Victoria's voice called from inside. The office was large, cold, impersonal. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A desk made of dark wood that gleamed under recessed lighting. Victoria sat behind it, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable. Emma and Lily stood near the window. They looked small in the vast space. Mr. Reed, Victoria said. She did not stand. Please sit. Marcus sat in the chair across from her desk. He could feel the twins watching him. Victoria folded her hands on the desk. I understand you spoke with my daughters yesterday. One of them was upset, Marcus said. I didn't think it was right to leave her alone. That's very noble of you, Victoria said. Her tone suggested it was anything but. However, you are not employed to provide emotional support to my children. You are employed to clean. Marcus said nothing. Victoria studied him for a moment. Then she turned to look at her daughters. Emma, she said. Lily, come here. The girls walked over. They stood beside their mother's chair, hands clasped in front of them like soldiers awaiting orders. Tell Mr. Reed what you told me, Victoria said. Neither girl spoke at first. Then Emma looked at Marcus. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying again. We're sorry, Emma said quietly. We didn't mean to get you in trouble. Lily's jaw tightened. She did not apologize. She just stared at Marcus with those sharp, guarded eyes. Victoria sighed. They seem to think you were kind to them, which is unexpected. Marcus waited. Victoria leaned back in her chair. For the first time, she looked tired. Not just physically. Tired in the way people look when they have been carrying something too heavy for too long. I've had 12 tutors this year, she said. 12 highly qualified professionals. None of them lasted more than a month. My daughters have become, she searched for the word, difficult. They're grieving, Marcus said. Victoria's expression hardened. Excuse me? Their father, Marcus said. Emma mentioned him. She said she missed him. The silence that followed was sharp enough to draw blood. Victoria stood up. She walked to the window, her back to Marcus and the girls. My husband died 2 years ago, she said. Her voice was controlled, but something underneath it was not. Cancer. 18 months from diagnosis to the end. And yes, my daughters have struggled. But grief is not an excuse for bad behavior. Maybe they're not misbehaving, Marcus said. Maybe they're just trying to be seen. Victoria turned around. Her eyes were cold. You have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe not, Marcus admitted. But I know what it's like to lose someone, and I know what it does to the people left behind. Victoria stared at him. For a moment, something flickered in her face. Not anger. Something softer. But it disappeared as quickly as it came. She walked back to her desk, sat down, folded her hands again. I'm going to make you an offer, she said. And I want you to think carefully before you respond. Marcus waited. I want you to spend time with my daughters, Victoria continued. Not as a tutor, not as a caretaker, just as someone who is present. 2 weeks, after your shift ends each day. 2 hours. I'll pay you $50 an hour. Marcus did the math in his head. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. That was $500 a week. 1,000 over 2 weeks. More than he made in a month of cleaning. Why? he asked. Victoria looked at her daughters, then back at Marcus. Because in the 10 minutes you spent with Emma yesterday, she stopped crying. That's more than any professional has managed in 2 years. Marcus glanced at the twins. Emma was looking at him with something like hope. Lily's expression was still guarded, but there was a question in her eyes. I have a son, Marcus said. I can't leave him alone. Bring him, Victoria said, if that's what it takes. Marcus thought about his son, about the small apartment, about the way the boy spent his evenings sitting alone, arranging blocks into patterns only he understood. Maybe it would be good for him, to be around other children, to be somewhere different. Okay, Marcus said. 2 weeks, Victoria nodded. Starting tomorrow. The first day, Marcus brought his son. The boy's name was Ethan. He did not like new places, new people, changes in routine. But Marcus had explained it carefully, the way the therapists had taught him. Small steps, clear expectations, a picture schedule on the refrigerator showing what the afternoon would look like. They arrived at Victoria's house at 4 in the afternoon. It was not what Marcus had expected. Not a mansion, just a large home in a quiet neighborhood. Brick and wood, and a front yard that needed mowing. Victoria answered the door herself. She looked different out of her suit, more human. She wore jeans and a sweater. Her hair was pulled back. This is my son, Ethan, Marcus said. Victoria looked at the boy. Ethan did not look back. He was staring at the doorframe, counting something under his breath. He doesn't talk much, Marcus explained. He has autism. Victoria nodded. Emma and Lily are in the living room. She led them inside. The house was neat but not sterile. Comfortable furniture, books on shelves, photographs on the walls. In one, a man with kind eyes stood with his arms around 2 small girls. The twins sat on the couch. They looked up when Marcus and Ethan entered. This is Ethan, Marcus said. He's going to hang out with us for a bit. Ethan did not acknowledge them. He walked to the corner of the room and sat down on the floor. He pulled a small box from his pocket, Lego pieces, and began arranging them into a pattern. Emma watched him with curiosity. Lily looked skeptical. Marcus sat in a chair near the window. He did not try to force conversation. He just let the silence settle. After a few minutes, Emma stood up and walked over to Ethan. She knelt down beside him. What are you making? She asked. Ethan did not answer. He kept building. Emma watched for a while. Then she reached for one of the pieces. Ethan's hand shot out, knocking her hand away. Not hard, just firm. Emma pulled back, startled. Marcus started to stand, but Emma held up a hand. It's okay, she said softly. She sat down a little farther away. I'll just watch. Lily joined her sister. The two of them sat cross-legged on the floor, watching Ethan work. He was building something complex, a tower with precise angles and interlocking pieces. He's really good, Emma said. Lily nodded slowly. Yeah. Marcus settled back into his chair. He watched his son, watched the twins, watched the way they were learning to be near each other without needing to fill the space with words. After half an hour, Ethan finished his tower. He sat back and looked at it. Then he looked at Emma. He pointed to the box of Legos, then to her. Emma's face lit up. You want me to build something? Ethan nodded. She picked up a handful of pieces and started to work. Lily joined her. Together, they built something small and lopsided, but it stood. Ethan studied their creation. Then, carefully, he placed it next to his tower. Emma smiled. It was the first real smile Marcus had seen from her. The days that followed fell into a rhythm. Marcus and Ethan arrived at 4. The twins were always waiting. They would sit together on the floor. Sometimes they built with Legos. Sometimes they drew. Sometimes they just sat in silence. Marcus taught them small things. how to make paper airplanes, how to fold napkins into shapes, how to pack a lunchbox so nothing got squished. One afternoon, Emma asked if she could help make Ethan's lunch for the next day. Sure, Marcus said. They stood together in Victoria's kitchen. Marcus showed Emma how to cut the sandwich into squares, how to slice the apple thin, how to arrange everything so it looked like a face. "Why do you make it like this?" Emma asked. "Because it makes him smile," Marcus said, "even when he doesn't feel like smiling." Emma thought about that. Then she said, "My mom used to do that, before my dad got sick. She used to make us lunches with our names spelled out in crackers." Marcus looked at her. "That's a good memory." "Yeah," Emma said quietly. "It is." The next day, Lily asked if she could help too. The three of them stood in the kitchen together. Marcus let the girls take over. They worked slowly, carefully, whispering to each other about where to place each piece. When they were done, they had made 2 lunchboxes, one for Ethan, one for themselves to share. "We can bring this to school," Emma said. "Mom always makes us buy lunch, but this is better." Marcus felt something shift in his chest, something warm and painful at the same time. That evening, after Marcus and Ethan left, he received a text message. It was from Victoria. "Thank you." He did not respond. He did not know what to say. But when he got home, he looked at the photograph of his wife on the kitchen table. For the first time in 3 years, he did not feel like he was drowning. On the 8th day, everything changed. Marcus arrived at work to find people staring at him, whispering, stepping aside when he walked past. He found Bill waiting by his locker in the break room. "We need to talk," Bill said. They went to the same small office where Marcus had been questioned before. Ron Vasquez was there again. This time, he looked apologetic. "Someone filed a complaint," Ron said. "Anonymous. Said you had a history. That there was an investigation 3 years ago." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "That was about my wife's accident. I was cleared." "I know," Ron said. "But the complaint said you were alone with children, that you were investigated for negligence, that maybe you shouldn't be around kids. That's not what happened." "I know, but it doesn't matter. People are talking, and Mrs. Sterling's enemies are looking for anything they can use against her." Marcus's hands clenched into fists. "So what are you saying?" Ron looked at Bill. Bill looked at the floor. "We think it's best if you step back," Ron said. "Stop seeing the Sterling girls, just for a little while, until this blows over. I didn't do anything wrong. We know, but sometimes that doesn't matter." Marcus stood up. He did not say anything. He just walked out. He went back to the 15th floor, unlocked storage room 15C, sat down on the floor where Emma had cried that first day. He pulled out his phone, typed out a message to Victoria. "I have to stop coming. I'm sorry." He stared at the words. Then he added one more line. "Tell the girls it's not their fault." He hit send. Then he sat in the dark storage room and tried to figure out how something meant to help had turned into something that could hurt everyone involved. Victoria's reply came 20 minutes later. "We need to talk. Tonight. My office. 7. Marcus stared at the message. He thought about ignoring it. About going home and pretending none of this had happened. But he owed her an explanation. He owed the girls more than a text message. At 7, he took the elevator to the 15th floor. The building was nearly empty. His footsteps echoed in the hallway. Victoria's office door was open. She sat at her desk, still in her work clothes. When she saw him, she gestured to the chair across from her. Marcus sat. "Tell me what happened," she said. He told her. About the complaint, about the whispers, about how someone had dug up his past and twisted it into something it was not. When he finished, Victoria was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Do you know who filed the complaint?" "No." "I do." Her voice was cold. "James Hendricks, board member. He's been trying to push me out for 2 years, ever since my husband died. He thinks a woman can't run this company. I'm sorry, Marcus said. I didn't mean to give him ammunition. You didn't do anything wrong. Victoria stood and walked to the window. The city lights stretched out below her. I've spent 2 years trying to be perfect, trying to prove I can do this job, and in the process, I forgot how to be a mother. Marcus did not know what to say. My daughters have been screaming for help, Victoria continued, and I've been too busy trying to survive to hear them. Then you show up, a janitor, someone I never would have noticed. And in 1 week, you do what 12 experts couldn't. I just listened, Marcus said quietly. That's exactly my point. Victoria turned to face him. You listened? I didn't. I hired people to fix my daughters like they were broken machines. But they're not machines. They're children who lost their father and feel like they're losing their mother too. Her voice cracked on the last word. Marcus looked down at his hands. What do you want me to do? I want you to keep coming, Victoria said. I don't care what Hendrik says. I don't care what anyone says. My daughters need you. And She stopped, started again. I need to learn how to be what they need. They're going to come after you, Marcus said. If I keep coming, they'll use it against you. Let them. Victoria's jaw was set. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of letting other people's opinions dictate how I raise my children. Marcus thought about his son, about the photograph on his kitchen table, about all the times he had been afraid to let anyone see his pain because he thought it made him weak. Okay, he said. I'll come back. Victoria nodded. Then she did something unexpected. She smiled. Small, tired, but real. Thank you, she said. Marcus arrived at Victoria's house the next afternoon with Ethan. When Victoria opened the door, her eyes were red. The girls are gone, she said. Marcus felt ice flood his veins. What? They left a note. Said they were going to find you. That was 3 hours ago. Victoria's hands were shaking. Security is looking. Police are on their way. I don't know where they would go. They don't know where you live. They don't— The storage room, Marcus said. Victoria stared at him. What? Storage room 15C at the office. That's where Emma was the first day. It's the only place they might think to look. They ran. Victoria drove. Marcus sat in the passenger seat, his phone pressed to his ear. Calling Ron Vasquez. The security chief answered on the second ring. Check storage room 15C, Marcus said. Now. Already did, Ron replied. It's locked. Empty. Check again, please. Ron sighed. Hold on. Marcus heard footsteps through the phone. The jangle of keys. A door opening. Then Ron's voice, sharp with relief. Found them. By the time they arrived, the rain had started. Heavy. Cold. The kind that soaked through clothes in seconds. Marcus and Victoria ran through the lobby, rode the elevator to the 15th floor, ran down the hallway to the storage room. The door was open. Ron stood outside, radio in hand. Inside, 2 security guards waited with Emma and Lily. The girls were soaked. Their clothes dripped water onto the concrete floor. Emma's teeth were chattering. Lily's lips had gone pale. Victoria rushed to them. She dropped to her knees and pulled them both into her arms. What were you thinking? She said. Her voice broke. You could have been hurt. You could have— We wanted to see Marcus, Emma said. She was crying. We thought he left because of us. We thought if we found him, we could tell him we're sorry. Lily said nothing. She just held on to her mother and shook. Marcus knelt down beside them. Emma looked at him with red, swollen eyes. It wasn't your fault, Marcus said. His own voice was unsteady. None of this was your fault. Then why did you leave? Emma asked. Because I was scared, Marcus admitted. I was scared that trying to help you would only make things worse, but I was wrong. You're not leaving? Lily asked. Her voice was barely audible. No, Marcus said. I'm not leaving. Victoria pulled the girls closer. She was crying now, too. Not the quiet, controlled tears of someone trying to hold it together. The raw, broken kind that came from finally letting go. Marcus stood and stepped back. He felt like he was intruding on something private. But Victoria looked up at him. "Thank you," she said. He nodded. There was nothing else to say. The next morning, Victoria called an emergency board meeting. James Hendricks sat at the far end of the conference table, arms crossed, expression smug. He had heard about the girls running away. He thought it was proof that Victoria was unfit. He was wrong. Victoria stood at the head of the table. She did not have notes. She did not need them. 2 years ago, my husband died, she began. Her voice was steady, and I thought the way to honor him was to be strong, to never show weakness, to prove I could run this company as well as he did. She looked around the room. Every eye was on her. But in doing that, I forgot the most important thing he ever taught me. That strength isn't about being perfect. It's about admitting when you need help. Hendricks shifted in his seat. "Mrs. Sterling, I don't see what this has to." "I'm not finished." Victoria's voice was steel. "You filed a complaint against Marcus Reed, a man who has done nothing but show kindness to my daughters. You tried to turn his grief into a weapon against him, against me." "I was protecting the company," Hendricks said. "You were protecting your own agenda." Victoria placed her hands on the table. "Marcus Reed will continue to work with my daughters, and if anyone has a problem with that, you can bring it to me directly. Not through anonymous complaints. Not through whispers and rumors, to my face." The room was silent. "Furthermore," Victoria continued, "I'm implementing a new policy. Employees at every level will have access to mental health resources, grief counseling, support groups. Because we are not machines, we are people, and people need help sometimes." She looked directly at Hendricks. "If you can't support that, then perhaps you're on the wrong board." Hendricks stood abruptly. "This is absurd." "Then leave," Victoria said calmly. He stared at her, waiting for her to back down. She did not. He left. 3 other board members followed him, but the rest stayed. And when Victoria sat down, one of them started clapping. Then another. Then the whole room. Victoria did not smile. She just nodded and gathered her papers. She had won, but it did not feel like victory. It felt like she had finally stopped fighting the wrong battle. 6 months later, Marcus still worked at Sterling Tower. He still mopped floors and cleaned storage rooms. But now, when people passed him in the hallway, they knew his name. They said hello. They asked about his son. 3 afternoons a week, he went to Victoria's house. Sometimes Ethan came with him. Sometimes he came alone. The girls were different now. Lighter. They smiled more. They fought less. Lily had started talking about her father. Small things at first. The way he used to read to them at night. The songs he sang in the car. The way he could always make them laugh. Emma had started drawing again. She filled sketchbooks with pictures of her family, her father, her mother, Lily. And in the corner of every drawing, a small figure in a blue uniform. One afternoon, Victoria asked Marcus to stay after the girls went to bed. They sat in her living room. She poured 2 glasses of wine. Marcus did not usually drink, but he accepted. "I've been thinking," Victoria said, "about offering you a different position, something more than janitorial work." Marcus shook his head. "I like what I do. You could make more money, have better hours." "I don't need more money," Marcus said. "And the hours are fine." Victoria studied him. "Why?" "Because when I'm mopping floors, no one expects anything from me," Marcus said. "I can just be. And that's what I need right now. To just be." Victoria nodded slowly. She understood. They sat in comfortable silence. Then she said, "The girls made something for you. They wanted to wait until it was perfect. She stood and left the room. When she came back, she was carrying a lunchbox. It was plain, blue, but on the lid, someone had painted a careful design. Not a dinosaur, a family. 5 figures holding hands, 2 tall, 3 small, and above them, in careful letters, "Thank you." Marcus took the lunchbox. His hands were shaking. "They want you to use it," Victoria said, "for Ethan's lunches." Marcus could not speak. He just nodded. That night, when he got home, he placed the lunchbox on the kitchen table next to the photograph of his wife. He stared at it for a long time. Then he did something he had not done in 3 years. He picked up the photograph and looked at it. Really looked. At his wife's smile. At the way her eyes crinkled at the corners. At the life they had built together before it was taken away. "I'm okay," he whispered. "I'm not healed. But I'm okay." He set the photograph back down. Then he opened the lunchbox and started preparing tomorrow's lunch. He cut the sandwich into squares, sliced the apple thin, arranged everything into a smiling face. And for the first time in 3 years, he felt something other than grief. He felt hope. 1 year later, Emma and Lily stood in the cafeteria at school, holding lunchboxes their mother had helped them pack that morning. Around them, other children laughed and shouted and traded snacks. A girl from their class walked over. "What are you eating?" Emma opened her lunchbox. Inside was a sandwich cut into squares, apple slices, crackers arranged in a pattern. "My mom made it," Emma said. There was pride in her voice. "It looks weird," the girl said. Lily looked up. Her eyes were sharp, but not cruel. "It looks like love." The girl did not understand. She walked away. But Emma and Lily did not care. They sat together and ate their lunch and talked about the drawing they were making for Marcus. It was almost finished. Just a few more details. In the picture, there were no shadows, no empty spaces. Just a family that had been broken and was learning how to be whole again. And Marcus? He still worked at Sterling Tower, still mopped floors and cleaned storage rooms, still arrived before everyone else and left after most had gone home. But now, when he walked through the building, he did not feel invisible. He felt seen. Not because of what he did, but because of who he was. A man who had lost everything and chose to help others find what they had lost. A father who knew that love was not about grand gestures. It was about showing up. Every single day. Even when it hurt. A janitor who understood that the most important work in the world wasn't done in boardrooms or corner offices. It was done in storage rooms, in quiet moments, in the spaces between words where healing happened, one small act at a time. And sometimes, the person who saves you is not the one you expect. Sometimes, it is the one you never saw at all. The building is quiet now. The lights on the 15th floor have been dimmed. In storage room 15C, everything is in its place. On the shelf, next to the cleaning supplies, someone has left a small note. It says, "Thank you for seeing us." And in the margin, in careful handwriting, someone has added one more line. "Thank you for letting us see you too." Because in the end, healing is not about fixing what is broken. It is about learning to hold the broken pieces together. And sometimes, when you do that, you discover something unexpected. That you were never as alone as you thought. That kindness is not weakness. That the smallest acts can change everything. That a man in a blue uniform, mopping floors in the shadows, can teach a billionaire what really matters. And that love, real love, does not require a title or a salary or a degree. It just requires showing up. Every single day. With a lunchbox and a patient heart, and the quiet belief that broken things can learn to be whole again. Not perfect, but whole. And that is enough.